Hello, Chitlins. It's your weird Uncle John again. So I want to talk to you about past lives and past life regression. And if you believe in past lives and reincarnation, let me be one of the first, I guess, to say welcome back. To all those YOLO folks out there, surprise. Okay, let's get to it. My past lives presented themselves in a peculiar way, and if you don't have any experience with past lives or past life regression, I would like for you to look up the movie Dead Again. Stars Kenneth Branagh and a couple other famous folks. I can't remember off the top of my head. Robin Williams is in it, and I don't think he's credited, which is kind of peculiar. But he plays such a pivotal role in this movie. Without giving too much away, imagine you were killed by someone in a previous life. You came back into this lifetime, and in the process of rediscovering who you were, the person who killed you the first time is still alive, much older, but they still don't want anyone to know that they're a murderer, and so they go to kill you in this lifetime as well. That's just one of the little wrinkles in this really, really good movie. Emma Thompson, I think she was married to Kenneth Branagh at the time. Andy Garcia is in it. It's a really, really good movie. But it introduces the viewer to the concept of past lives and past life regression, and some of the karmic implications that come along with the tenet of past lives. So I believe if you don't have that experience or knowledge in your brain box, then I would highly recommend watching this movie. It's a good movie regardless, but it's a really good introduction to some of the things I'm going to talk about. The thing that happened to me was I had a chronic Achilles tendon injury. It was not responding to medication, and Western medicine's solution was to take the tendon from a cadaver and put it in my body and tweak it so that it would act as a tendon in my body. Nope. I was 24, 25, somewhere in there at the time, so not a good grasp of medicine. I still thought I was going to be an opera singer at that point in my life. So the thought of, having some kind of zombie cadaver material in my body just didn't sit well. So, but allograft is the process now that I've learned. And if I could go back in time, now I've managed to go another 20, 25 years without having the surgery, so I think I'm okay. But Western medicine had failed me, and like so many people, when Western medicine fails you, you go look in other directions. So I turned to a friend of mine who was working in Western medicine, but also Eastern medicine. And she was a Reiki master. She was working on getting her acupuncture license, and there's so many hours you've got to log in to do that. And I was a willing guinea pig. So with my Achilles tendon giving me a lot of grief, I agreed to kind of the full meal deal and had acupuncture, Reiki, and sound therapy going on all at the same time. And I knew this person from work and had been to her place a couple of times, so it wasn't, it was a very comfortable setting. And I think sometimes that plays a part in a person having, you know, the full experience or the best experience that they can have with energetic medicine. But so I'm having this experiment slash experience, and while that's going on, I've got my eyes closed. But while I have my eyes closed, it's almost like all of a sudden in my mind's eye, this movie started playing in my head. And it wasn't my imagination. If I can equate it to anything, your imagination is 2D or maybe like a black and white TV. And this memory was 3D with smellovision. It was very vivid, very lifelike. I could see things from two perspectives. I could shift back and forth between an exterior shot of what was going on. I could look at myself and look at the persons that I was dealing with, as well as I could be in that person and see things from their perspective. And when I saw things from their perspective, I also had the feeling that came with it. So that's what I mean by smellovision. There was an emotional, almost visceral component to this. And there were really quick, what I call vignettes. And there were 4 of them. One of them that came through loud and clear was being an American Indian shaman. And I knew that I was going to have to leave my family. I was going to a war or a battle that was completely unnecessary. It was totally ego-driven. The chief had passed away, and so the chief's son had taken over, and you know, he felt like he needed to assert his authority. So I knew that I was probably not going to come back from that. So I'm standing there looking at my wife. Our foreheads are touching. We're looking at each other. I could hear her kind of like saying, I want to say, don't go, but I know you're going to go. And in my mind, I was saying, I don't want to go, but I have to. So that interchange between someone that you profoundly love and have that mythical, unconditional love with, standing there and being with them and realizing that this is probably the last time I'm going to see you in this lifetime. So kind of drinking in that moment and having those feelings, just one of those cries where it's like you're not boo-hooing, but the tears just flow. It's the inevitability that comes with a caste system. I have to do it. So I remember as we're riding away on our ponies, I turn around backwards on my horse so that as I'm riding away, I never lose eye contact with her until I'm over a rise, and then, you know, I can't see her anymore. But that's where that lifetime kind of, you know, fades to black. And then another one showed up. But these 4 vignettes were so lifelike in their appearance, so 3D. And also the emotional context that came with it was stunning. And so because of those two type of events going on, and I'd been remote viewing for maybe a decade at this point, so I was aware of the difference between an out-of-body experience, a dream, and so this was new to me. It was a whole new level of consciousness, and it took me some time to kind of accommodate to that new reality. But once I accommodated to it, I was completely fascinated with it. So years down the road, I met another young lady who was doing what she called soul fragment retrieval. And I've heard it from a couple other places. My perception is that it's not popular compared to some other things that are out there, energetically or consciousness speaking. But at the same time, it is out there. So the theory is that when you have a traumatic death, that you leave a piece of your energy or soul behind. And a way to kind of provide for your soul's health is to go back and get that fragment. So relive that trauma, obtain that fragment and bring it back. Kind of like a Horcrux, but not, if you're into the Potterverse. I finally met someone who was doing past life regression. They were hypnotherapists, but they'd also studied with Dr. Brian Weiss, and Life Between Lives. If you don't know that book, you should. So she studied with him. She knew that there was this, not only past lives, but there is this place in between lives where you might be able to speak to your higher self, or maybe speak to the tour guide that is, coordinating these things for you. And he's done it about 2,000 times the last time I checked. So he's got a good foundation for a factual, veridical experiences with this. Unfortunately, I do not have veridical experiences for my own. I didn't get names, but I'm realizing now I didn't ask for names. I just wanted to tease out the experience. But over time, I uncovered about 14 previous lifetimes, and I was under the incorrect assumption that, I've been around for a while and I've learned a lot of things, and maybe this is my last incarnation, please. Turns out that's not the case at all. These 14 lifetimes that I, acquired, they all have, they're pretty diverse. I mean, man, woman, white, black, yellow, red. Again, I've used the metaphor before. It's like playing a video game, and then once you play through with one character, you start again with another character and experience the same game platform, but with different attributes, and seeing how you do with that. It's kind of what life is, in my opinion. But anyway, so I uncovered 14 previous lives, and the unifying theme of these lives was abandonment and unappreciated sacrifice. And it was interesting that it was just over and over and over. And it kind of falls in place with what my near-death experience was 6 years earlier, in the sense that I was told during my near-death experience in 2005 that I was to be a spiritual paramedic, and that I need to go back to the earth plane, and as people are waking up, I need to help them wake up from the anesthesia that society conveys. So this video, is all my other videos, are just kind of part of that process in sharing that experience. But the other curious thing was that having all these experiences was disappointing in the fact that I thought I'd been through the cosmic Costco. I thought I'd sampled everything. I don't know if that's the case. I'm still making mistakes. I'm still making bad choices that aren't good for me on one level. But on another level, I'm making choices that you would think someone who's supposed to be spiritually aware would not make. But that doesn't necessarily mean they're bad choices. They just mean that I'm opting to have different lessons than the typical near-death experiencer would have. I mean, it's not all, rainbows and unicorns and patchouli. And I loathe all three of those things. So, maybe it's the fact of my personality, then being back in this earth environment has kind of, I won't say reset the experience, but it's definitely moved the needle back to pretty close to where it was before. And for a while I judged that, but now it's just kind of like, that's how I'm wired, and that's how all these experiences have filtered through the lens of my reality based on my experiences. So it's just different. It's not good or bad. What's that Hamlet? I don't remember who says it, but things are neither good nor bad. Only thinking makes it so. So I'm not going to think that it's bad. I'm just going to think that it's different. But so these past lives, I think, are part of a larger picture. And again, going back to my near-death experience, anybody that's on Earth right now is an advanced soul, or you have to be advanced enough to be on this Earth plane. And like any other sport or game that you're brand new at, you may have some beginner's luck, but man, it's going to be tough, and you're going to make some mistakes, and you're going to fall on your ass or face or, appendage. Saw this as a meme. Disappointment, running into a wall with an erection and breaking your nose. I think there's been some disappointments along the way, but I think we all have disappointments, and we can call them wins or losses, or we can call them wins and lessons. And I think you eventually discover to call it that. It depends on how many trips it takes. Your mileage may vary. So, I think we all have past lives. This is a good place to pause. Smoking is a bad habit, kids. Don't do it. That being said, I really like these factory smokes, the sweets from Drew Estates. Just saying. Who knows, maybe instead of being George Carlin, I'll be more like George Burns. Anyway, there are so many roles to be played and so many lessons to learn and so many things to do and try and experiment with, that even if you have the YOLO mentality, there's no way you can experience every experience that there is to have on the earthly plane. And the goal of your soul, based on my research and experience, is to learn and is to grow and is to expand beyond its capabilities when it stepped in. And unfortunately for the human animal, pain and distress are usually really good teachers. I would say of the teachers that are out there, pain and suffering is the lowest common denominator. Everybody can relate to that. Not everyone can relate to, sitting like a guru on top of a mountain and, being a breatharian or a sonitarian or whatever it's called. So the other thing that I wanted to share with you is that when you're ready to explore those previous lifetimes, careful what you ask for. Because it will change the way you perceive reality. It will change how you look at this current life. And if you have not already learned that your consciousness and your physical body are very intertwined, but they are different, then that experience will be shocking to you. It'll be shocking regardless, but it'll be more shocking if you haven't thought about those things or had those considerations, or you don't have the support system of people, friends, beliefs, books, mentors, teachers, whatever, to help you process that. So it's kind of like walking on hot coals. You may not need some burn cream or Sylvadine or bandages or aloe vera or whatever you do, but it's always nice to have that stuff on hand just in case, because once you burn your feet, you really don't want to hop in the car and drive for an hour to find out whatever it is you need. And I've done that and it sucks. Had a kidney stone decided to get lodged in my ureter, and it took me almost an hour and a half to drive to a hospital. You don't want that. Not at all. Unless you like a Brillo pad stuffed up your urethra. Who am I to judge? I mean, if you want to go sounding with a Brillo pad, all right. I think I deviated from my original discussion. Find someone who has been doing hypnosis for, several years, literally maybe 7 or more. The other thing too is that when you're discovering the previous lifetime, you may discover something really traumatic. What's interesting is that you may have an echo of it in this current lifetime, but something that was predominant in the previous lifetime. And because the emotional context that comes with that past life awareness, it could literally be painful. For example, in a previous lifetime, I was out strolling in the woods, picking up different plants for herbs, for medicinal purposes, and got discovered by a not so friendly tribe. And their way of dealing with me was to tie me up to a tree and then use me for target practice. And so it took a while, because they didn't go for the vital organs first. It was arms and legs and, upper torso, till finally they went for the visceral organs. So it took a while. And in this lifetime, I'm a diabetic and I have to give myself shots to the abdomen. So I consider that an echo from a previous lifetime. Both of them were self-inflicted injuries, in the sense that I knew I was trespassing in an area that wasn't mine to be on, but I really wanted the herbs that I wanted. Same thing here. If I wanted to have a salad 5 times a week, I probably wouldn't be a diabetic, but we're all victims of the choices we make. Or maybe students of the choices we make. So, when you look at past life regression, and you look at just the concept of past lives, it kind of reinforces the thought that in the cosmic university, Earth is just a classroom. There are plenty of other places to go to learn lessons, and some classes take longer than others. Some of them have more credits than others. And I've mentioned before that while I was in my near-death state, there were some spirits that were just absolutely astonished that I was on Earth, because it's like the wild, wild west, and there's so many experiments going on at the same time, and it's Earth is a science lab. I mean, you've got all the isms are experimenting. You've got manufactured reality from TV shows and news systems. I don't consider myself a QAnon person, but I've had family in the military a couple of generations back, and I know that what happens in reality and what shows up in newspapers are two different things. I know that, I think most recently I heard this from a Bob Lazar movie, but sometimes you know the truth and you want to tell the truth and get it out there because you think everyone needs to know. No, Not everyone needs to know. As a nurse, when I was taking care of cancer patients, I modified the message that I had based upon the knowledge and the disposition of the person I was speaking to. In some circles, that would be called lying. In some circles, I think that would be called mitigation. And I think there does have to be compartmentalization of information in some circles. And what I've also discovered is that as you get older and get wiser and start sharing what it is that you know, then the people who are gatekeepers for that information will sometimes share with you what they know, just to see if it comes back. And if it doesn't, then may you end up with more information. Or if it does come back, then either you get no more information or you get disinformation. To that, there are some things that I know and I'm holding back on. And right now I'm trying to put out what I would say was like 100 level or freshman year type information, because there are some people out there that are still metaphysically speaking, they're still operating with their GED. I don't mean any shame by that. My father never had more than a GED, and love him greatly and respect him, and in certain arenas he was a damn smart cookie, but I would not have tried to engage him in discussions of how metaphysics works through the lens of quantum mechanics. But I would do some serious bullshitting with him with respect to the Packers,